There was a time when hatred didn't course through your veins, a time when darkness didn't permeate your skin. It was before you abandoned your humanity and became the Lord of Ruin. From the top of his obsidian tower, the Lord of Ruin surveyed a realm of death. A once perfect kingdom, now cracked and crumbling, choked by swamps and bubbling muck as far as the eye could see. Dread ravens filled the sky in roving flocks, feasting on the living and the dead, their numbers greater than any man could hope to face. Geysers of toxic fog belched out from beneath the oily waters, filling every depression with a deadly hanging vapor. He smiled, sweeping his eyes across the miles of ruined city that surrounded his jagged spire. The Lord of Ruin, the ravager of kingdoms, the herald of the demon in the depths. In living memory, no man was more despised, and no man took more pleasure in his work. But it had not always been thus. A lifetime ago, a child stood alone in the well of bones. The floor was littered with the skeletal remains of countless dead, grim evidence of those who'd come before. They lay like ivory strata, tiny skulls and ribs and femurs packed together over centuries, filling an endless pit that stretched down into the dark heart of the earth. Hundreds of feet above, a speck of daylight shone like a distant star, its feeble illumination granting no respite from the pitch black at the bottom of the well. "Hello, little one," purred a voice from the shadows. "Have you come to set me free?" The boy peered wildly into the darkness, searching for the unseen speaker, but he saw nothing. He stuttered, trying to collect himself, then raised his chin bravely. "I have come to bind you, demon," he declared. An amused chuckle echoed against the stone walls of the well. "Have you now?" it asked. "You? A starveling orphan, snatched from the streets with nothing? What do you owe the priests that sent you here, boy? What have they done for you, that you're in such a hurry to sacrifice your life to keep them safe?" The boy frowned. "They saved me," he said hotly. "They gave me food and a warm place to sleep. They told me about my secret power, that I was the only one who could save the world when it was time to—" He flinched in fear as the shadows erupted into booming laughter, sending a shower of dust down from the surrounding rock. "Your secret power?" mocked the voice, mixing delight and scorn in equal measure. "That is what they've told you? That only you can pay the price they fear to?" "No, child," it continued. "Any one of your precious priests could take your place if they so desired. But they fear death, as all men do. Why should they die, they think, when there are others who would willingly take their place?" "That's not true," protested the boy, shaking his head. They said you lie. They said you'd try to trick me into breaking the seal so you could escape." "I cannot lie," replied the voice. "And in truth, I do not need to. It is you that has been tricked, boy, given baubles and a few hot meals, and lowered down into my prison to your death. You are far from the first child to be used in such a way, but if you will only listen, you may yet be the last." An unnatural wind swirled in the depths, as if the shadows themselves were moving. The voice circled the boy as it spoke, whispering softly into one ear, then the other. "The lands above are protected," it said, "as long as I am bound below. There is no disease nor famine, and the birds and beasts step all docile into death. For 800 years it has been so, a golden kingdom, untouched by the hardships of the rest. But there is a price to this idyllic state," it hissed. "Each new moon, a willing soul must come to me, to give their life and maintain the spells that keep me locked away." It sighed, and a gust of wind ruffled the child's hair. At first the priests were honest. They had true believers among them, willing to die to keep their kingdom safe. Grown men, with all the world to lose, who chose to enter this place of their own volition. I'm sure they thought of themselves as heroes, martyrs, dying for the greater good. The voice snorted in disdain. But a perfect kingdom does not make a perfect people. Binding me did not stop greed, nor fear, nor arrogance. And so, over the years, fewer and fewer souls stepped forward to sacrifice themselves, until eventually, in desperation, those cowards left alive sought out new converts, the unwanted children of their otherwise perfect world, the uncared for and abandoned, the orphaned and the poor. And so they scoop you up, and they feed you, and they fill your heads with lies, and then they send you to your death so that they can enjoy the pleasures of their precious golden age. The child shook his head again, but slower this time. Doubt crept into his voice. But that can't be right, he said. Even if the church was wicked, like you say, wouldn't people notice? Wouldn't people care? Oh, they know, came the Shadow's smug response. They may not admit it, but the truth is plain to see. Too many children go missing for such a wealthy kingdom. Too many priests live to a ripe old age, lavished with gold and praise for their order's supposed sacrifice. Anyone with eyes and ears must realize the truth. But it is so much easier to look the other way, to continue paying their yearly tithes, and allow the robed deceivers to go on with their bloody work. It is the natural way of things, explained the voice in the darkness. When a kingdom runs out of martyrs, the only option left is victims. Satisfaction dripped from every word. The only option left is you. There was a long silence at the bottom of the well of bones. Then, quietly, the boy began to sniffle. I see you finally understand, said the voice. A warm breeze wrapped around the child, and it spoke in a comforting tone. And now, knowing the truth, would you still die for them? For a world that cares nothing for you? For a kingdom that could kill countless children and call it the greater good? The boy scraped a hand across his eyes roughly, thinking of the golden land above, the priests in their lavish temples, feasting while he starved on the streets. The hundreds of wealthy families who lived their lives of ease and comfort, each of them knowing the price that must be paid and doing nothing to stop it. His small hands clenched in sudden anger, and he scowled into the black. What are my other options? He asked. The voice laughed instead of answering, and as it laughed, the swirling darkness roared into a maelstrom. Tendrils of shadow whipped into a sudden frenzy, tearing at the tattered rags around the child's frail body as they gathered power. And then, without warning, they struck. They slammed against the boy with a palpable force, nearly knocking him off his feet and making him cry out in fear. Then they were pouring into him, screaming through his open mouth and down his throat, turning his veins to ice and filling his lungs with freezing pain. He fell to his hands and knees with the force of it, gasping as the cold soaked into his chest, binding to his heart and soul and leaving him shaking on the endless pile of bones beneath him. Silence, stillness. The boy coughed weakly, still trembling from the unexpected assault. This time, when the voices spoke, it was from inside his own mind. A soothing, satisfied whisper that caressed his spine and sent tinglies of pleasure dancing through every fiber of his being. Rise, my child, said the darkness, and let me show you.